Welcome to Burn the Ship. This is the podcast where we connect entrepreneurs with professionals that can help you go all in on your business. We talk to people that have walked the walk, talked the talk, been through all the things that we experience as small business owners, come out the other side more knowledgeable with more skills, more experience, that they're willing to come on the podcast and share with us so that we can be more successful business owners. So, Jeff, I wanted to say this, Dr. Jeff. I appreciate your time very much. Anybody that shares your time with myself, with the audience, it's been a really, really good learning experience for me to keep posting this podcast, and it's been awesome to get some of the feedback that we've gotten from some of our audience that says, hey, I saw this podcast. It was really cool, or it helped me with this thing in my business, or maybe it just motivated me to take that next step. And you're a part of that now. So I wanted to say up front, I appreciate it very much. But why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about your business?
Absolutely. And thanks for the honor of being with you on this episode. And hopefully we're going to have a good time and talk about some passions, talk about life a little bit. And I'm sure there's going to be some nice nuggets for people to take away from it. But my name is Jeff Danielson. I'm a chiropractor. And that's how I identify myself. But I've got my fingers in a lot of different things. But I fell in love with chiropractic after I had already made a decision to become a chiropractor, but I really didn't know what a chiropractor did. So it's kind of an interesting story, which we'll probably touch on a little bit today. But um, I'm an entrepreneur at heart. I'm an entrepreneur. I own 7 different restaurants. I own a restaurant management company. I also coach chiropractors. I've got a coaching company. I'm invested a lot in real estate, commercial real estate, as well as residential real estate. So I do a lot of different things, and there's a kind of a connection between all of them, which I think we're going to probably get at, which is your passions, where your heart is at, and the purpose why you're on this planet. So I guess
Sure.
that's kind of in a nutshell, a little bit of who I am.
Well, it's exciting because I think one of the things that we've done a good job of demonstrating to people through bringing other people on the podcast, if I had to pat myself on the back, is that we've brought some people on the podcast that have some incredible experiences, right? Like I was just speaking with a videographer the other day, and we do a lot of videography stuff too. So it's a very similar language, right? Like we understand kind of what they're going through, making commercials or whatever. But some of my favorite people to talk to are the people in that space. They're like, I started out, I would go photograph and video whitewater rapids, right? Or whatever that thing is that they were interested in that kind of honed their skill and then kind of turned that into a business thing. So I think passion and hard work can lead you to a lot of really cool places. And then I think if you combine that with just a little bit of business skills and, a heart to help people, business is an incredible capitalism in general is a really incredible tool for you to be able to use to kind of invent the life that you want. So take me back to the beginning. Kind of tell me the story of how you got into, I guess, whatever came first.
Yeah. So I started chiropractic school because I knew I wanted to work with the human body. Um, Originally, when I was a student at UCLA, I thought I was going to be as an orthopedic surgeon. And so then I started interviewing orthopedic surgeons. I took a job as a nursing assistant in a medical center. And while I was there, I started interviewing orthopedic surgeons and started talking to them and started asking them the question, if you had to do it all over again, if you had to start all over again, would you still do it? Would you do it the same? And about 50% of those surgeons said no. No, I would not do what I'm doing now. And that just kind of broke me because here I was really wanting to do something, and then half of the people that were in the position that I wanted to do were saying that they wouldn't do it again, and for various reasons. And so I started just kind of opening the box a little bit and looking at different professions, and looked at optometry, looked at podiatry and dentistry, and some other things that because I knew I wanted to be in the healthcare field. And then I found out a little bit about chiropractic, and it's all about anatomy, physiology, orthopedics, joints, nerves, all this kind of thing. And so I started talking to chiropractors, and I talked to 4 chiropractors. All 4 of them said, I can't imagine doing anything other than what I'm doing. And I thought, well, that's interesting. All 4 of these, doctors couldn't be happier. And so long story short, I ended up going that direction, but I really didn't know why. I'd never really been to a chiropractor. never
Sure.
even heard of what chiropractic was. It wasn't until about 6 months into grad school. So I graduated from UCLA and went into grad school to become a chiropractor, which is about another 4 additional years. And I got about 6 months into it, and I heard a guest speaker come in to the campus and was speaking from the stage. And he talked about that power within your body that God put inside of you, that innate intelligence. He used that term, innate intelligence. And I was like, what's that? What's innate intelligence? And he was explaining how the power that made the body heals the body. And he was talking about his faith in how the human body was created, and that the body was created to be well, but it just didn't need any interference. And the problem is we go through life and we have all kinds of stuff happen. In fact, just about an hour ago, I got done working with a patient. She was 14 years old, and her spine was so crooked. We took x-rays and did an exam and whatnot, and her spine was so crooked, and her mom was like wide-eyed, and she's like, what in the world happened to you? How did you get so crooked? And by the time she left, it was about an hour that she spent in the clinic. By the time she left, she said, could this have happened when? And she gave the story of how when she was in kindergarten, an older girl picked her daughter up and swung her around, because she was just this little thing, right? Swung her around and hit her head on the cement floor. So things happen to us, right? At a very young age that affect how your body develops. But ultimately, when this person who was speaking from the stage started talking about this great and amazing organism, the human body, and that it just needs no interference. And it's those kind of events like hitting your head on the ground, or getting in a car accident, or falling out of a tree when you're 6 years old, or a water ski accident. I mean, there's 1,000 things that happen to us as we grow up in life that create this interference. And if you don't get that interference removed, then the body just doesn't work as well. And so all of a sudden, a little light bulb went on above my head, and I realized why I was in the profession that I was in. And that was to remove interference, to allow this human frame, this human body, this physiology to work at its greatest potential. And so that's what I fell in love with, is helping this God-given organism function better and work better, and become that kind of a chiropractor. And so ultimately then became a chiropractor, and then realized that so many chiropractors were just not running businesses correctly. And I learned the hard way. I made a lot of mistakes, but I was extremely passionate about, you and I, we talked a little bit about customers, okay? Patients, and customers being super important. And I had this passion for helping people. But I also had this entrepreneurial brain that really wanted to grow a business and have it succeed at this maximum level. And so I grew this massive practice back in Minnesota, where I currently reside. And then I became a coach. I'm still a chiropractor, still practice. As I just said, I just saw a 14-year-old girl as a new patient, so I still am in daily practice. But I apply what I do to help other chiropractors become the best version of themselves as well. And it really became, actually, it was probably about 20 years ago that I watched the movie Pay It Forward. Did you ever see that movie?
I did. I did.
So Bailey, that movie hit me. It's a movie with Joel Osment, Kevin Spacey, Helen Hunt, and it really inspired me, because it was all about paying it forward to people that couldn't help themselves, and then each person then could then pay it forward to 3 other people, and then those 3 people could pay it forward to 3 other people. And so at that point, then I wanted to make more chiropractors successful. I wanted to pay it forward to other chiropractors. And so through coaching chiropractors and training chiropractors, and then investing in chiropractors, putting my money where my mouth was, not just telling people this is what you need to do or this is how you need to do it, but saying, I will partner with you. I know the bank, is looking at you because you have $250,000 in school debt, and they're not going to give you a loan. I'm going to put my money where my mouth is. I'm going to invest in you. I'm going to train you. I'm going to invest in you. We're going to buy a practice together. And then 3 years later, I'm going to sell my portion back to you. So you're that 100% owner. That's what I started doing. I've done that 11 times, owned multiple clinics that way. I still do that today. And that's what I wanted to do for the chiropractic profession, because unfortunately, and this is the story, Bailey, you probably hear it all the time from all kinds of people in different professions. You can go to law school, but that doesn't mean you know how to run a law firm. You can become a great attorney or become a great dentist, but that doesn't mean you know how to run a dentistry practice. And the same thing is true in chiropractic. The schools are pumping out chiropractors that know how to be doctors, but they have no clue how to run a business. And so that's what I help people do, and so that they can become smart business people and keep the doors open, because the statistics are showing that about 30% of chiropractors 5 years after practice are not practicing anymore. And to be $250,000 in debt and out of business within 5 years is not a good thing.
Sure. Well, tell me that usually I ask like kind of what's your superpower that's helped you been growing, right? Like, that's usually what I ask people, but I want to frame it this way, right? Like, if there was three things that you could teach these people that you're investing in business wise, like here's what to look out for that can be, either a key to success or a death sentence if you don't do something. Like, what are some of those high level things that you leave people with whenever you're talking about, hey, here are the things that I want to instill in you before you begin down this road of running this chiropractic office?
Yeah, well, I mean, the number one thing is purpose. What's your purpose? Why are you on this planet? If you want to read a great book, for those of you that may not have read this book, The Purpose-Driven Life. Okay, fantastic book. But I mean, what drives you should be your purpose. Why are you here? Why has God put you on this planet? What purpose do you serve? And your purpose is great. I don't care who I'm talking to. And everybody thinks that they need to be some massively wealthy, successful business person that touches thousands and thousands of lives. It might be one person. Your impact could be one person, but that one person that you pour into, that purpose, that you're on this planet to help this one person, that person could turn out to be the Billy Graham of the world, or the
Right.
Elon Musk of the world. So don't worry about the numbers, okay? Because we all get so wrapped up in numbers, like how many patients are you seeing, or what's your profit and loss look like? Forget the numbers. Why are you on this planet? What drives you? What gets you up every day? If you don't have a purpose, if your purpose is just waking up and going to work. I don't know if any of you remember the old commercials. I think it was Dunkin' Donuts, and this kind of big fat guy would stand up and say, "It's time to make the donuts." And so the alarm clock would go off at 4:30 in the morning, and he would get out of bed. It's time to make the donuts. And every day he would just get up and make the donuts. And that was it, right? But we should be jumping out of bed and saying, it's time to make the stinking donuts. Let's go, because that's
Right.
who we are and that's what we do. So you got to find your purpose, and you got to fall in love with that. You got to fall in love with that purpose. And, I loved, I've listened to a number of your podcasts, and they're
I appreciate
fantastic.
that.
It's a great podcast, great episodes. And I love the title, Burn the Ships. And burn the ship. The story there is strong, because if you have nowhere to go, if you have nowhere to return to, if safety is gone, you have no other option but to win. If you want to survive, if you want to move forward, if you want to gain, if you want to move forward in life, you have no other option. It's like the point of no return. If an airplane is flying across the ocean, at a certain point, it would take more fuel to get back to the mainland than it would to get to your destination. So you just keep going because you've hit that point of no return. And when I think it was Cortez, I think it was the
That's
Spanish
right.
conquistador that, he saw that his troops were bummed out. They were tired. I mean, the Aztecs were beating them, and he wanted to just make it so incredibly clear to them that they had no other option but to win. And so he burned their ships, and so they couldn't get back on the ships to safety. They had no choice but to conquer. And so it was conquer or die. you know
Yeah.
and if you don't have an attitude like that, um, you know, it, I pray for your practice. If you don't have an attitude like that, if you're running a restaurant, and I'm very involved in the restaurant industry. If you don't run your restaurant like you need oxygen, like I had somebody talk to me once about how bad do you want it, and he said, okay, and he was speaking to a group of us, and he said, okay, everybody hold your breath. He made all of us hold our breath, and after about 45 seconds, he said, okay, now everybody take a breath. He said, well, how bad did you want oxygen? At 45 seconds. And if you get to a minute and a half, how bad do you want air? How badly do you want to, take a breath again? And you need to want it that bad. And there needs to be no other option that other than success, other than conquest, other than conquering what it is that you have to get past in order to be successful. So you really do have to want it that bad.
Yeah, I can agree. And I think, from my point of view, something that I've learned, mostly through talking to other people, is that it's kind of a bifocal point of view. Is like, not only do you have to have the driven, so like in the, I'll put it in a medical frame of mind, right? Because I think a lot of what inspires people to get into entrepreneurship is flexibility, right? Is you make your own schedule, and you control all those things that go on into the making your business successful or not successful. And in the medical field, you really have to blend two things. You have to blend the, I want to run a successful practice. I want to have enough money to take care of my family, or I want to invest in other people that are in the same thing. Whatever that is, it requires some level of financial success. And then in the other side of things, which I think is really kind of what the pharmaceutical industry struggles with, is you have to put the patient first, and you have to know that you're investing in the wellness of the patient, or the people that are okay with giving you money in order to trade that for a service. You have to know that you have those people's best interest in mind, right? Like you have to be focused on the wellness of your company and the wellness. Like you really have to understand the why from both of those perspectives. You have to know that you have to be invested in helping people, because it's not an easy thing. Sometimes it's an expensive thing. And sometimes you know this probably better than anyone. It may be 10 visits before someone sees any actual level of profit from the relationship that you have with that chiropractic office. So you have to be in line from a wellness perspective. If I want to actually make people better, I want to make people healthier, whatever that thing that your thing is. And you also have to say, I want to run a practice in a way that's going to get me where I want to go in life. And that's the reason that I enjoy talking to, all the way from chiropractors and private practice doctors and optometrists and podiatrists and just anybody in that medical field, because it's such a wonderful thing to see people go out of school and say, well, I knew the math, I knew the science. I understood that part very clearly. I made really good grades, and I graduated with honors, and I was on the dean's list and all these things. And I graduated this, Latin certification, whatever that may be. But on the other side of things is you really have to blend that with knowing that information that you've accumulated over time is what's good for the people that you're trying to sell stuff to.
100%.
How do you coach people to keep both of those things in mind when you're talking about, blending that priority of both the wellness of your customers and the wellness of your practice?
Well, you got to wear a lot of hats, and you hit on an absolute essential thing. I mean, you cannot be in business, I don't care what kind of business it is, without caring about the end user. You've got to care about the end user. I mean, your business of working with credit card, processing and whatnot. I mean, you got to care about that end user, that person, that business that is utilizing your services. And when you can do that, and when you can build those relationships and provide such a great and needed service for those people, boy, it's just overwhelmingly fulfilling, to help people. It really is. In fact, sometimes I get more joy out of referring somebody to another person. So for example, I've got, I mean, over the years, I've done so much networking. In fact, a good friend of mine is Ivan Meisner.
Oh
With
yeah, BNI.
Yeah, the guy started BNI, and he called it giver's game.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I call it in my business. So I've got a company called Big Fish Enterprises, and our focus is pay it forward. In fact, my holding company is called PIF Holdings, and PIF stands for Pay It Forward Focused. And so everything I do is focused on paying it forward. How can I help someone else? How can I help another business person? And I get so much out of referring people to other good people. If I've got a great massage therapist that I refer people to, or an acupuncturist, or an attorney, or an accountant that I just love. I mean, I love my financial planner. He's been my best friend since he was my setter in college on the volleyball team. And so we've been friends since I was 18 years old. And he's a genius, and he's wonderful. I mean, and anytime I can refer somebody to him, I do so. And I feel so good about that because I'm helping another great person, and I'm helping the client because I know they're going to be super happy with that. But the end user is always, that is the foundation. But then there's all the different hats you got to wear, right? You got to manage your team. And that's a whole nother side of this, because once if you're not a solo entrepreneur where you're the only person in your business, which is very few. If you've got a team, and I've got 7 restaurants, I've got well over 1,000 employees. If I look at all the businesses that I own right now, I've got over 1,000 employees in different places all over the place. And part of me, the half of me is really focused on making my team better and helping these people that are employed at our businesses become the person that they want to be and discover their passion and become successful themselves. And I look at them as a future partner. So when we hire a busboy at one of our restaurants, I'm looking at that busboy thinking, does this young man have potential to be one of my partners someday? Because in our organization, we've had people go from busboy to server to bartender to bar manager to assistant general manager to owner in our restaurants. And they started as a busboy. Okay. That's how you want to look at the people that you're hiring. Does this person have potential to make this a career and be your partner someday? And can you help them do that? That's paying it forward, right? And so taking care of your people, and that's how you best take care of your end user as well. Because there's only a finite number of people that I can put my hands on and actually do an adjustment. But I've got 15 people in my main clinic in Burnsville, Minnesota. I've got 15 people, and my ability to inspire and train and motivate and mentor these people around me so that they can take care of, the masses of people that we take care of.
Yeah.
That's the secret sauce, because everybody needs to be on the same mission. And when we are, and we're all trained correctly, doing the right things, then we can help a massive number of people to be healthy, or to enjoy a wonderful dinner or a wonderful experience, or whatever your business is.
Yeah, I agree. It's giving those people the environment and the ammunition that they need to find their purpose as well. I think, right? Like your purpose can be very economics driven. Like I have to pay rent. It was for me when I worked at when I was a server in college, right? Same thing. Like it was very financially motivated.
Yep. Yep.
And then I realized that okay, I've worked for the same place for 3 years. I'm still at the end of college. I really don't exactly know what I want to do, but the people that I'm working with in this restaurant are talking about come back and take on more responsibility, come back and take on more responsibility, make more money. They built that ladder the same way. As they find people that they trust and they train those people inside and out of every aspect of the restaurant, and they invest in those people to find their purpose, right? Which is being in a place that you're valued, being a part of an awesome team. Like those people are wonderful. So I guess the flip side of that coin that I would ask you is what's been difficult, right? Because I know that like kind of the way that you start that whole purpose driven focus is by telling people or learning, whatever side of that coin that you're on, that if you're very rooted in your purpose, you'll always understand why you do what it is that you do, which will always make it easier for you to do that thing well than should you not know those things, right? So from someone that's been so rooted in focus, that took the time to learn the business and took the time to invest in people that were in your proximity, that were important to you, what's been difficult, right? Like what are some of the things that someone that shares those same characteristics needs to look out for if they're trying to broach that same industry?
Yeah. No, that's a great question. I've been very fortunate in my career that I'm very self-motivated and self-driven, and very on purpose, with who I am and why I'm here. And, my faith is a big part of that. But I have no problem looking in the mirror and holding myself accountable. The hard thing and the challenging thing in business is that as you attract other people into your business to work with you, they're never going to fully get to where you are. They're
Right.
You gotta mentor them and coach them and love them to get them as close to you as possible. And you don't have to get them 100% to where you are, but you really got to get them to about 80,
Yeah.
and I think, one of the most wonderful things about business and entrepreneurship and leadership is the people. And one of the most horrible things about leadership is the people.
Sure.
you know,
Sure.
because so many times you just want people to love it, to grasp the concept, to be as passionate as you are. You want them to get there, and sometimes you're just looking at a blank stare.
Right.
And maybe they're not in the right profession. Maybe they took a left when they should have taken a right. And so just, I guess, we're just realizing that not everybody's going to be the right fit. And the fact that you're going to be pouring into people to find out, down the road that they're just not the right fit. And it seems
Sure.
like a colossal waste of time, but ultimately it's what you do. It's what you have
Yeah.
to do.
Yeah, you start fighting against those very human characteristics, right? Which is something that I've always told people to not be afraid of. Like there's a reason that your body and your mind reacts the way that it does to things, right? And I'm currently in the process of training another salesperson who I've known for 20 years, right? I've known him forever. Played little league football with him, right? And he's just finished college and he's come on our team because I mean it's pretty apparent from seeing the ones of us that have been here a while that this is a really good vehicle to kind of get where you want to go if you work really hard. Right? Like merchant services is a wonderful industry, and the way that my company is set up is like as long as you take care of your people and you continue to work really hard at growing that book of business, you can kind of balance a little bit of service and sales, and you can be very successful in this industry. And really, I think what we're trying to get across to new salespeople is exactly that, right? Is I can't motivate you for you, right? And I can't convince you why there's no reason to be scared for going out and talking to people, right? I can't condition your mind to say, oh, there's nothing to worry about. Walk through this door into the dark room and see what happens, right? Like you have to go in there yourself and realize that there's nothing dangerous in there and try those shoes on for size to really get a feel of exactly what that experience is going to be. And one thing I noticed through this training opportunity is that, this particular fella, if you would have had to go out of your way to tell him that there was something to be scared of for him to ever realize that there was something to fear, right? Like you would have had to plant the seed that there was something that could go wrong for him to ever realize, because the first day that we went out and talked to merchants and talked to people that we were already connected with to show them the ropes of our industry, it was very second natured, So I think one of the difficult things for me getting into this whole training process and training people to sell things and take care of people and have people's best interest in mind is that it's been difficult for me to portray that you can be your own worst enemy, or your mindset can be your absolute best asset. Like if you can fall in love with this industry and realize that it is a vehicle to take you wherever you want to go, you can do really well. It's how do you curb those early experiences of, you're going to get some no's, you're going to get asked questions in your industry that you don't know the answer to, you're going to have to consult and call other people to find out the answer to those. You're going to have to go out of your way to figure out the solution when you don't know what the solution is, right? So like it's every deal is different. Every business is different. Everyone conducts themselves in a different way. So trying to find a way to educate both merchants and salespeople that you don't have to fit into this box, and to make that as general as possible. Everybody that's watching, you don't have to really fit into a box either.
Yeah.
You can run your business how you want to. It's taking a look at those very high level ideals of, one, I love what you said. How bad do you want it? Right, having that purpose driven attitude toward what you're doing every day in your business. And the second thing being that as long as you understand the why, you'll grow to understand the what. And then if you can invest in the people around you, you can find ways to make those people's lives a little bit easier. Business is a wonderful thing, right? Like all that control that you ask for signing up to be an entrepreneur, it comes with some difficulty. It comes with plenty of work. It comes with frustration. It comes with no's, and it comes with bad days. But overwhelmingly, I think it comes from a place of deep down as a human, we want to have a purpose and we want to do that thing that we do well. And this is one of those things that does that. You learn from all different industries and all different people, and you talk to people so much that you realize that, okay, I'm a little bit more qualified to be an entrepreneur than when I started this journey, just because I have lived vicariously through everyone else's experiences. You can do that as well. There are people in every industry that will invest in you and find a way to make you more valuable to that industry, because it ends up benefiting them in the long run as well. So I think that you're right. The people are the highlight, and sometimes the people are the most difficult part of pretty much every industry, especially when you are so dedicated to coaching and manufacturing leadership, right? But at the end of the day, that's our why.
Yeah.
That's our purpose. It's changed for me over time of like, I want to bring this vehicle to people that I know that I've been, somewhat successful in, and say, hey, you can do the same thing as me. Let's find a way to make this thing work. Like it's 100% the most gratifying thing about entrepreneurship in general, at least from my perspective.
Yeah, we are all in the people business. Plain and simple, we're all in the people business, because that's what this planet is. It's a planet full of people and doing all kinds of different things, and it's interesting. Partnerships are important as well. I've had bad partners, and I've had a lot of really good ones. I've lost millions because of bad partners, and I've got partners in the restaurant industry who they will give the shirt off their back for their people. As a management group and an owner of these restaurants, my teammates, my partners, have paid for weddings for employees, paid for surgeries. We've paid for education. We've had people. We've paid for treatment for people to get treatment. And you could look at that with a business hat and say, well, that's not a good investment. Oh, yes, it is. We will invest in our people in the good times and the bad, because we care about our people. And yeah, I mean, it's a negative on our balance sheet when we're paying for stuff that people are going through, when they should be paying for that themselves. but sometimes your people can't pay it themselves. They're not,
100%.
you gotta, you gotta lift them up and get them out of the muck. And, and that's part of our job. That's part of our mission, is to help people, good times or bad. And even if they end up, quitting the job, 2 months
Yeah,
after we pay for all the stuff that they're going through or whatever, that's
it
okay.
is what it is.
It's
Yeah.
the right thing to do.
Yeah, oh, 100%. I mean, you and I should work together, and it's probably going to take us a while to figure out how to put social impact on a P&L. You know what I mean? It's a metric worth tracking,
Yeah.
is what I think, is the little old ladies of the world that you help across the street with the thing that you sell and the service or good that you provide for people is more defining of how good of a business owner you are than how much money you make at the end of the year, I think. Right? Because it's like I said, is if there's anything that I could leave people that are watching this podcast, is that if you take care of your customer, you can do really cool stuff. Right? Like if you walk into this door of entrepreneurship and you realize that the number one thing that I have to do is take care of people, and whether those people be employees or customers or people in my life, that impact that you make on people is really what you're getting into entrepreneurship for, right? It really is, and you're going to get some benefit out of it too. You're going to learn some different stuff. You're going to have some different experiences. Maybe you get to travel the world because that's what your trade demands. You never know what you're going to get out of it either, but the impact that you can leave on other people, I think, is your legacy, right? And I think that not a lot of people start a business with legacy in mind, but
Right.
I think that if you keep the focus on where you end, it's a lot easier to navigate that road on the way. You know what I mean? Obviously, you have to deal with the stuff that comes up in a moment's notice. I'm not saying always be that person where your vision is more grand than where you are. But at the end of the day, your impact on people and the impact on the people that are working with you is such a tremendous benefit to going through how hard it is to run a business. I think it's not an easy thing. And if it was easy, no one would have employees,
Right.
right? We would all be in business for ourselves and bartering and trading and trying to limit how much taxes we pay. And, instead, here we are. We're all in this business world to start a business and gain employees and make an impact in the lives of our customers and our people. And I think if you can stay focused on that for as long as possible, the business world gets a little easier. So
Yeah. I don't know if you've ever gone through the exercise of writing your own eulogy. Have you ever done that?
I have, yeah, I have. I actually did that in college for when I was in psychology. So
Yeah. It's a good thing to think about, because it puts things in a different perspective, because it forces you to think, how would we want somebody to speak about us at our funeral? And I think, once you really think about that and kind of lay that out in front of you, um, it gives you perspective on how you should live today. Now, ultimately, in all honesty, yes, do I care about, how people see me and what my legacy is for the people that are still here? Of course, I want to leave a mark and not a stain, right? But ultimately, my accountability is God, and He's the one that put me on this planet, and I'm going to have a day of reckoning with Him. And so, God's given me a lot of gifts and skills and talents. And, I wake up every day, and I don't wake up every day like super pumped and super excited. Sometimes I gotta work up to it, right? It's like, okay,
sure,
here we go. Let's go. And I gotta get there. But, I wanna get to the end like a candle. I want to burn bright up until the very end, and then just poof, I'm gone, right? I want to use every ounce of my energy and every bit of talent that God has given me to serve His purpose and serve my purpose on this planet. And then, I'll have plenty of time to rest later. And so I want to make sure that I am achieving what I have been designed to achieve while on this planet. And not I don't mean that to say I'm going to work 22 hours out of 24 hours a day. I mean, you gotta work hard, play hard, have, fun, raise your family, enjoy your family, your downtime, all that kind of stuff. So you got to do all of that. But ultimately, that's where you want to end.
yeah, Absolutely. Um, I'll be honest. I look forward to meeting you one day. Truthfully, I think that your perspective on business is really where people should be rooted, and we talk about it a lot, especially from a sales perspective of manufacturing motivation. Sometimes it's something that you have to do. You're not going to wake up on the right side of the bed every single day, and the key to combating that is making sure that you don't develop a habit of seeing everything through this same lens, right? Um, and I really enjoyed the writing your own eulogy thing because I was in college, right? And I had a brilliant professor, and she simply asked, "Hey, today we're going to write our own eulogy from the perspective of whoever it would be delivering it," right? And so that that was the first time I think ever in my life where I felt really mortal, first of all, and then secondly, I felt that if I didn't understand why I was doing what I was doing, that my journey would be much more difficult than it was already going to be. Right. So it's a very unique thing. That this whole business thing is not one size fits all. You have to find ways to make it work for you day to day. And I promise if you do it for 5, 10, 20, 30 years, you're going to go through some ups and some downs. It just happens. And your temperament's going to change over time. Those losses hurt a little less after you felt them and rebounded a couple of times. It's just a really, really cool experience. But and I look forward to finding some people in my network to connect you with as well. I think I know some people that um, you would really have some synergy with as far as the way that you think and probably do something in some of the spaces that you are also related to business wise that could bring some benefit to you. But and again, and connecting people is one of my favorite things to do as well. A lot of those people I met through Mr. Ivan Meisner's BNI. So,
Yeah, yeah.
but tell me this, if people want to pick your brain or if they're looking for treatment or questions about business in general, how do people find you?
You know, a great spot to go would be mybigfishenterprises.com. So mybigfishenterprises.com is one of my websites for my coaching company. I've got a podcast that I do as well called Chiro Feast. It's designed for chiropractors, but honestly, I've got tons of people that are not chiropractors that listen to it because probably about 75% of it applies to all professions. I talk about and I interview people. So I've had people like Michael Gerber on my show,
Oh, cool.
all kinds of different people that I interview. We talk about communication. We talk about phone etiquette. I mean, we talk about all kinds of stuff that applies to every business. So it's a great podcast for people to listen to called Chiro Feast. Um, Bailey, I just want to touch on one thing because I know we're getting ready to wrap up, but you're a young guy. You still have all your hair, which I'm admiring. But
I'm losing a little every day. I'm
uh,
losing a little bit every day.
some people ask me why I still see patients because I've got multiple chiropractic clinics, multiple restaurants, all kinds of businesses and things that I'm running, and sometimes. And so the reason why I still see patients, and I don't see patients, 30 hours a week anymore or anything like that, but I still see patients and take new patients like the 14-year-old girl I was just telling you about earlier, because no matter what's like frustrating me with business and managing people and all the other things that I'm having to do, at the core of my being, I'm a chiropractor that helps a patient. And when I have that connection, no matter how, I don't mean this to sound like I'm a crabby guy all the time, but if I'm even a little bit crabby, but then I get to go into a room and talk to a mom and a 14-year-old girl. I come out of that room on cloud nine. I come out recharged. And those two, the mom and the daughter, they went bouncing out the doors. They were so happy with their experience and what we did in that hour, the information that I shared and the optimism and hope that I gave them. Um, and I think I got more out of it than they did. And that's so, I look at you and you're going to be, in your career, you're going to do lots of things and so many great things. But at the core of your being, when you sit down with a customer and you're able to solve a problem for a customer, that's where you fill your tank. And so
Absolutely.
So don't ever forget that you fill your tank with the core of your being of who you really are. And if you keep going back to that, that's why you hear in the restaurant industry somebody that moves their way up and they become, an assistant manager or a general manager or an owner, and they're not serving people at the table anymore. Every once in a while, they'll do it. They'll grab a pad of paper and they'll go and they'll take an order because they're back to the root of who they were, a people person serving people. And I think that's a great thing to remember and a great thing to stay in touch with.
I agree. And it kind of leads me to my last question here, because the last question is very in line with the name of the podcast, right? And we talked about some of the origins of the podcast, which you're all over, by the way. Big fans of Cortez, kinda, I guess. But the the truth is that I think that every entrepreneur has this light switch moment where, and it could be in so many different places. I mean, I've never truthfully thought about it from a perspective of someone that's worked their way up in a company that's become an owner like that. But I think everyone has this moment of clarity where this light switch flips and they go, okay, I'm an entrepreneur now, right? I own a business now, and for whatever reason that I do that, I need to make this thing work. So my question to you is, having burned the ship, having gone through this experience that the people that are listening to this podcast are interested in, why should other people seek out that same experience of burning the ship? Why should people take that bet on themselves? What's it done for you? And if you had to sum up that whole journey, how would you sum it up?
Well, I think number one, not everybody on this planet is cut out to burn the ship. There's a lot of risk involved in being an entrepreneur, and you got to be able to withstand that. And once you burn a ship and you succeed at it, it's kind of like running a marathon. If you've ever run a marathon, there's this weird like thing inside of you that just says, when's my next marathon? It's like it's
Mm-hmm.
you almost become a marathon addict, because you're thinking about, well, which race am I going to run next? And you look
Right.
at it, and it's like, why would you want to go through that again? That was
Yeah.
torture. Or maybe it's like having babies. I don't know. I'm not female, so I've never had one. But it's like you see a woman, you see your wife go through this, and it's like, you're never going to ever want to do this again. And then 6 months later, it's like, yeah, let's have another kid. It's like, what? So if you've burned a ship once and you succeed, you get that itch, and you obviously have the gift and the talent to burn another ship and make it happen. And so, but it's also okay to not be this ravenous entrepreneur, So yeah, you almost have to say not everybody is cut out for that. But guess what? You can be along for the ride, and you don't have to be the owner. So I know we want to encourage entrepreneurs out there, but I also want to encourage people that are maybe on the fence and they don't know if they're supposed to be an entrepreneur, and maybe they really shouldn't be, but they can be a great right arm man and be with you on the mission. It's okay to be second in command or third in command or just on the ship and on the team. So what matters most is that you're fulfilling purpose, and it all comes down to that. So some people are able to take on the risk and have the adrenaline rush and go for it. Other people, not as much, and that's okay. It's okay to just be on.
Absolutely. Well, I don't. I'm sure you hear it from the people that you work with, knowing your attitude and your temperament. But thank you for what it is that you do. I appreciate your investment in all these other people. That this started as a way, for us to connect to the people that we were close with, and it's been one of the most gratifying things that I think that we've ever done is try to pour into that small business community, especially in that COVID time where the PPP and SBA loans and all these other things kind of made it possible for people to give their business a chance. So if this podcast has benefited you, the listeners, I am glad. I will do many more. And you don't have to tell me, but I do appreciate you guys listening. Jeff, I appreciate you coming on and sharing your expertise and your experience. I think that you're wonderful at what you do, and I appreciate you for investing in people like me. There's a lot of people like me from our hometowns that You just don't know any better. You know, you don't know what you don't know, and you don't know how to get into this position where you feel like you're in control of your life. And it seems like through your journey, you've helped a lot of people, both from a patient perspective and from a business perspective, realize that that is something that they can achieve. So it means a lot to me that people are out there like that. So thank you for that.
Yeah, no, absolutely. It's my pleasure. And, I think one fear out there for a lot of people is that they think if they ask somebody for help, that they'll be turned down for help.
Sure.
And most leaders and most entrepreneurs and super successful people, they desire to help and to mentor other people. They desire to pay it forward. They desire to make the future a better place by helping people behind them, become greater people. And so don't ever, and I'm speaking to the audience here, don't ever be afraid to ask for mentorship, to ask for guidance, to ask for coaching. And you don't be afraid to invest in yourself. Sometimes it costs a little bit of money,
Sure.
to get coaching or mentorship or become a part of an organization. But I would just encourage everybody, don't just think you have to gut it out on your own, because you don't. So ask for help. Talk to these guys with Burn the Ship, because they obviously have a heart to help people, and it's worth reaching out.
Well, I appreciate that, my friend. We'll put this together. We'll edit it over a couple of weeks. Once we get a nice finished product, we'll cut some clips out of it and stuff. Anything that you want. We're not selfish with our content at all. We'd love for you to have it and share it whatever way works best for you. And if I can be an asset into anything that you do in the business world, I'd love to be here. Like I said, I think what you're doing is really, really cool. And I'm glad to be part of that ecosystem.
Awesome. It's a pleasure to meet you, Bailey.
Yeah, you as well, my friend. I'll be in touch with you in a couple of weeks whenever we get this done.
Yeah, that sounds good. Yeah, I'd love to have whatever comes out of it, and be able to promote you guys and promote your podcast. I'd also love to be able to rebroadcast this recording on my own podcast. So
Yeah, absolutely. You're more than welcome. Whatever you want to do with it, we'll give you everything you need. So, but I'll be in touch, and I appreciate you. I look forward to talking again.
have a great weekend, buddy.
You too. Burn the ship.